Hi, I'm EllaAradia and welcome to your Psychic Tarot Love Reading. This reading is for my Aries, Leo and Sagittarius fire signs. The timestamps are below, where we'll be taking a deeper dive into your person's hidden feelings for you. This is a love reading and it's for those of you who are already connected with someone, even if you are currently in no contact with your person. This will be a very specific message, so it may not resonate for all of you. If it feels right, then it's meant for you. Otherwise, you may want to check out the readings for your other placements. So Sun, Moon, Rising, or Venus. And before we jump in, a big thank you to all of you who are supporting my channel by liking and subscribing. So if you enjoy this reading and you haven't already done that, please do. It helps the channel out a lot. It doesn't cost anything to subscribe, and then you can get notified when the next videos are up. So Aries, let's jump in. I always know when the deck's ready because all the cards start to fly out. So I always like to tune into the energies first, Aries, before I start pulling any cards. I'm a psychic reader, so I like to see what the universe shows me. I'm seeing the word compromise, and I feel like many of you are in some kind of, let's say, situationship here. And I'm getting a strong energy here of, you know, boundaries being compromised, truth being compromised, and agreeing to, I feel, things that you're not 100% on board with. And, you know, for some of you, it's not going to resonate for all of you. I feel like you may have agreed to some kind of, let's say, friends with benefits situation here, when deep down inside, you know, what your heart truly wants is a committed, you know, long-term relationship. And, you know, it feels like this is something that's been going on for a while. And there's an energy here of kind of hanging in there, like hoping, you know, things might change. This person might step up in some way. But I feel like you're dealing with someone here who looks to me like they're keeping their options open. And so in that sense, it feels like you're on a slightly different page with each other. Overall energies is the Ten of Pentacles. This is all about, you know, building a long-term commitment for the future. Building strong foundations. That's what you want. That is what you are, I feel, you know, ready and wanting to do here. This is something where, you know, you build these strong foundations which are really going to, you know, stand the test of time. You know, this is about family, leaving a legacy, you know, creating a life which feels and is, you know, secure and abundant. And, you know, I feel like that's you here, Aries. And, you know, this is what you are wanting. But it feels like you're settling for less in some way, or you're letting things slide, or you're agreeing to things which you're not 100% on board with. You know, it's not really what your heart truly wants. But I feel like you're trying to hang on to this person because there's feelings there, and that's the challenge. You know, it's really difficult to sometimes let go of, you know, something which, you know, isn't really making us happy. It's not really giving us what we want. But we love that person. And there can be a fear to lose that love. You know, it's the fear is more, you know, what does that then mean you might have to face? You know, what does that bring up inside of you? And, you know, for many people, that might be an abandonment wound, or, you know, feeling unloved or not enough in some way. Your person's view of you is the Queen of Swords. This is all about speaking truths. And it may be that you have, you know, voiced some difficult truths. You know, this is all about, you know, honest conversation. And, you know, somebody who really speaks their truth. And I do feel that you're doing that. But what I keep feeling is, you know, this collapsing of those boundaries that keeps happening, which sends the message you know, under the surface, let's say, that you don't really mean it, and, you know, they can still carry on, you know, doing what they're doing. They don't need to step up because you'll always be there, even though, you know, you've said whatever. And that is the thing that I'm seeing here, which is kind of keeping this pattern in this loop. Like, this feels like it's been going on for some time. It's an energy of, you know, almost waiting to be chosen. You're waiting for this person to choose you by honoring you, honoring the relationship, you know, by taking it to some kind of next level. And I feel like you're just dealing with someone here who is sort of wanting it, you know, on their terms and keeping their options open. This might be somebody who isn't quite ready for that. Or it might be a protection for them. You know, this might be someone that's been hurt in the past, and, you know, there's a bit of a protection or a guard around the heart, around opening up here. Their feelings towards you is the Queen of Cups. Their intentions, the Five of Pentacles, and this is that abandonment thing. You know, this is the energy of, you know, somebody moving on. This is the card of abandonment, feeling on the outside. And usually represents either somebody leaving your life or you leaving this person's life. Let me just get your feelings. Your feelings towards your person is strength. The Challenge, the Eight of Wands. So there's some kind of no contact situation here for some of you. It feels like truth has been spoken with that Queen of Swords there. And this may be your person, you know, that you may be in no contact now, and this may be your person or yourself kind of feeling on the outside, feeling shut out. The hidden influence here is the Hanged Man, seeing things from a different perspective, taking a pause, taking a step back. And it's interesting, like when I feel into the energies of this Queen of Cups, you know, this is someone who, you know, has a lot of love to give, but the lid is on the cup. And it almost feels to me like it's an energy of, you know, if that card was in reverse. I don't tend to read reverse cards, but I feel like this is someone who does feel very deeply, but they're kind of keeping that lid, you know, on that cup of emotion. That's what I'm feeling. You might be dealing with someone who is a little bit avoidant in some ways. You know, opening up emotionally is something that doesn't feel safe. And deep down inside, you know, this person may also feel that they're not really worthy of love. And it feels to me like they are carrying, you know, some kind of wound from childhood there, around not being enough, not being worthy, it not being safe to open up and be vulnerable and share feelings here. And I feel like you're tired with this card, and I feel like this is about you needing to kind of really find the strength to kind of hang in there with this person. Because it feels like, to me, it's come to kind of a make or break moment here when I look at these cards. You know, truth has been spoken. The time has come for change, and for this person to, if they're going to step up, it's now. Otherwise, you know, it is about kind of moving on. And I do also get that feeling from them as well. You know, are they really able to do that? Because, you know, moving on and avoiding, you know, working with, you know, whatever these issues are, It's all a way, I feel, of them protecting their heart in this situation. And, you know, you can only really do that for so long. You know, at some point, you know, there does come a point where that love that somebody is really wanting, it is really missing. And at some point, they're going to have to, you know, find that courage to feel safe enough to open up. And that's where I feel like you have really held that space for this person. And this whole thing of, I feel, keeping options open, entertaining conversations, connections in the background there. It feels like it's something that's sort of a little bit behind the curtain in the background. You know, just staying friends with benefits where, you know, they're not having to connect more deeply because it's not feeling safe. And that's what I feel kind of the block and the challenge is here, especially with that Eight of Wands. You know, this is a card of, you know, communication channels being open. It's fast moving energy, like back and forth, you know, rapid kind of messaging, conversation. But it can also be a challenge here around opening up and expressing feelings. I feel like you shone a spotlight, you know, on their insecurities, their challenges, and that's where the struggle is, I feel, to, you know, for the person that you're dealing with to really kind of look at that and make a shift. And it does feel like it's come to a moment where I'm seeing kind of a fork in the road here. I always find these connections interesting because often when you kind of dig a little bit deeper, you end up finding that you both have very similar fears, but in different ways. Because this can also be about you facing fears and, you know, facing whatever fear comes up for you or insecurity around potentially moving on from this. You know, where does that leave you? What comes up, you know? And so it feels to me like there is a lot of kind of healing and soul lessons in this connection. And all we can really do is work on ourselves. We can't necessarily change other people. We can create an invitation. We can hold a space for that potential. But, you know, you can't be there doing that forever, because at some point there's going to come a cost to you where you are compromising your truth in terms of, you know, what you really do want with this Ten of Pentacles here, which is that long-term committed relationship. And so what I always say is, even though it might be challenging right now, you may be in a no contact situation, and, you know, that can be very challenging. It can be hurtful. But the way things are now, this is what I always say, is you don't really have them anyway. And so if you can find the courage to really hold strong with your truth this time, you know, with this Queen of Swords, this is about expressing your truth and really kind of standing in your power in that way, regardless of how other people receive that, regardless of perhaps the consequences of that truth. And, you know, if that does result in, you know, the person you're dealing with moving on and choosing, you know, to do that, you know, you didn't really have them anyway. And, you know, but it's a tough one. In your advice, we have the Seven of Wands, which is all about you standing in your truth. A little bit like the Queen of Swords. I mean, this can also be someone that's very guarded, but in this case, I feel like that's you standing in your truth amongst any energies of adversity, challenges, and really staying true to you. In your outcome, we have death, which is also a rebirth. And this is very much an invitation here, Aries, to let go of any old versions of yourself, limiting beliefs, patterns, negative beliefs about yourself, about life. Letting go of that version of you which is putting your needs to one side, letting things slide, settling for less in terms of perhaps agreeing to things that you're not fully on board with as a way of, just trying to keep someone in your life. It's about letting go of that version of you and stepping in, I feel, much more strongly into this Queen of Swords, into your power, and staying true to, what you really want and what you deserve here. And sometimes, I'm not quite sure how this is going to play out just yet, but sometimes when we work on ourselves and we shift our energy, it does create an invitation for the person you're dealing with also to shift. And if it's not this person, it will be somebody else for you in your future. So Aries, let's get your person's hidden message for you. So this is for those of you who are in no contact with your person. Aries. I know I messed up everything. You and I were too young. I always think of that in terms of, spiritual, kind of emotional maturity. I feel you leaving me behind. I knew exactly what I was doing. I want to be more than friends. So Aries, I'm going to leave that there. We are going to move on to Leo. So Leo, let me just do a couple more shuffles here. One more. Yeah, that's when I always know when the deck's ready because the cards start to come out. So Leo, let's jump in. I always like to tune into the energies first, Leo, before I start pulling any cards. I'm a psychic reader, so I always like to see what the universe shows me. You'll notice that I don't pull any clarifying cards because I like to do that. I'm a psychic channel, so that's something I've done for many, many years before I even started with tarot. So I like to be the clarifying part. But what I'm feeling here, Leo, is two energies. And for some of you, there might be a choice here between two different people. It may be that someone new has, recently come into your life. I'm seeing somebody orbiting you, which feels like a new person. Or an old one transformed is what I'm hearing now as well. I feel like there's also someone in the past. There's a link into the past to either an ex or somebody that, you have always kind of struggled to let go of. It feels like this person still holds a little piece of your heart, because when I feel into your energies, I feel your energy going to this person, and I feel sadness and heartbreak and a sense of kind of just missing that connection that you had with that person. There was something about it that just, felt right. It felt like home. And it feels like something broke down. May have been a third-party energy for some of you. And I do feel you picked up the pieces. That's what I'm being shown. You picked up the pieces, and, it was a challenging, difficult breakup, but you moved on, you moved forwards. But somehow, this person still holds a little piece of your heart, I feel. And there's an energy coming in which is someone who is ready for commitment. And what they're bringing to the table, I feel, is a healthy love for you. And this person may have, you know, made themselves known to you, or they might still be orbiting you right now. I'm not sure. For some of you, sometimes this new energy that I feel coming in sometimes for people can be an old person transformed. Because I do feel that's going to be the case for some of you here. This feels like somebody from the past coming back forwards again. Overall energies is the Nine of Cups. And I definitely feel like this is, you know, over these last, let's say, months or years for some of you. This is an energy where you have been doing a lot of healing. You've been working on yourself. And this is about kind of getting to that sweet spot where you're feeling pretty good in your own company. And, you know, this is an energy of someone who's not needing to be in a relationship necessarily. You know, you're feeling okay in your own company, comfortable, and you'd rather be like that than be in something which isn't feeling right or unhealthy. And that's a really great place to be in. That's really healthy, you know, because you're not just with somebody because you don't want to be on your own. You know, there isn't like this like really kind of codependent type of connection, or you're not in something that's unhealthy just because, you know, you don't want to be on your own. You know, this is someone who I feel has, you know, really done a lot of work on yourself. And it feels like it's, you know, taken some time to get to this point, but you're there now. And like I said, that's a great place to be because you're in a healthy space. You have emotional discernment. Like the figure on the card, arms are folded, legs are a little bit apart. So there's an openness, but a little bit closed off. And to me, I see the word discernment. You know what you have to offer. And you're going to make sure that you give that to the right person this time. So you have that emotional wisdom now, that discernment. And that's a really healthy energy. And so when you do connect to somebody new now, this is an energy where you're going to be enhancing each other's lives rather than something that's very codependent. Your person's view of you, Five of Cups, that's interesting. That's why I'm kind of feeling like this is something, there's a connection with this person from the past. Because I'm instantly drawn, you know, to the Two Cups which are still standing there, which is what remains, what could be salvaged here. You know, this is always the blessings of, you know, something that we feel we've lost, that we feel that we can't get back. You know, that's what the Three Cups that are spilled over represent in this card. And, you know, this is someone who is looking back on the past with a sense of loss and regret and sadness. Their feelings towards you, the Four of Cups, an offer of love. I just keep feeling this is someone from the past coming back around. And this may well be, you know, this is who this person is. And for those of you that doesn't resonate, this can also be, you know, that you are, you know, still a little bit caught up in the past. You're a bit too focused still on what was lost. And you're not seeing those Two Cups which are still standing. And you are perhaps not seeing this new cup of love that I'm seeing orbiting you right now. That's going to resonate for one group of you. And it's almost like the universe is, you know, trying to bring this person in for you. But because your energy is still a little bit kind of intertwined with this person in the past, it's maybe kind of keeping you a little bit closed off or stuck. You know, the danger of this card is always about, you know, not getting stuck in this kind of pulled back kind of energy of, introspection, let's say. Your person's intention towards you is the Two of Pentacles. That usually represents somebody juggling a choice. Sometimes that can be a choice between two people or two different things. Your feelings towards your person, the Eight of Pentacles. So whoever this is, you know, this is somebody where I feel like there's still an openness to this person. And, you know, this is you willing and really kind of ready to still put that work in. You know, that there could still be something here that can be salvaged. And, you know, making a commitment to, you know, put that work in towards, you know, perhaps a long-term connection here. Let's just look at the challenge. I keep going back to that Two of Pentacles. It's like, what is that choice? Why is there some kind of choice here? Because it may be a choice with this person around reaching out, because the Four of Cups is their feelings. You know, this may be someone who is thinking about you. They have, you know, a lot of sadness, regret. I feel like they are missing those times from the past. And that choice with the Two of Pentacles may be around whether or not they should reach out to you. How are they going to be received? Are you open? I do feel like you're open with the Eight of Pentacles. I feel like you've always been open, and I feel like you've always been, you know, willing to, you know, really work on whatever issues ultimately led, you know, to the breakup there. And I feel like the person you're dealing with has grown, and I feel like they've grown a lot emotionally. You know, time has passed, lessons have been learnt. For some of you, there may have been a third-party situation, and, you know, this is why, you know, I'm feeling all these energies of regret and sadness and loss. I feel guilt in there. They may not have been, you know, ready for what you were offering, because I feel like you challenged them to grow. You know, it was a healthy love, but to embrace that healthy love involved healing and growing. And the third party energy I'm feeling with this person from the past, I feel like this is probably what caused the breakup. Part of it anyway. It feels like they explored a connection which was their comfort zone, someone who didn't challenge them to grow. But I do feel they've learnt, and I do feel time has passed and they have reflected. You know, there's a strong energy of reflection in this card that I'm feeling. In the challenge, we have the Seven of Pentacles. So a moment of a pause. It usually represents a period of time where, you know, there's an energy of taking stock, of reevaluating. And there is an invitation, I feel, to, you know, really do that. You know, it's not just to, you know, jump straight back in always. You know, it is also about making sure that you have both grown enough in order to really progress things forward in a healthy way here. And so, you know, make sure that you are kind of looking, you know, at what you really have here with this person. You know, when they come back forward, I feel like it is to, you know, really make sure you're feeling, you know, a genuine energy from this person, that, you know, they really have grown and reflected and they're taking accountability. In the hidden influence, we have the Five of Swords. Often an energy of conflict. It feels like, you know, there was some kind of major argument there, which is what kind of finally, you know, caused things to fall apart in the past. Doesn't feel like particularly healthy communication to me. And yeah, conflict, arguments, you know, not seeing eye to eye, both wanting to be right. And of course, moving forwards, that's something, you know, that communication does need to happen in a much more healthy way. In your advice, the Six of Pentacles. Not sure how I feel about that card when I look at it. Sometimes it can represent third-party energies, but it's also about this energy of, you know, give and take in relationships, you know, those kind of dynamics. And really making sure, like I said, that you have both grown enough in order to progress things forward in a healthy, balanced way. You know, these are all about, you know, making sure these energies are reciprocal. You know, it's not one person, you know, investing more, doing more than the other. This is about, you know, a healthy, balanced, reciprocal connection. I do feel there's a chance for this, but, you know, this is something that you really do need to feel, you know, when you do communicate with this person, that they really have grown and things have changed. They're taking accountability. And not only that, you know, they're backing it up with action. You know, actions often speak louder than words. So making sure, you know, that this is, you know, something that can really be balanced in that sense. In your outcome, we have the Queen of Pentacles, which is all about stability, security, really pouring, you know, your energy into someone, into the connection, but also, you know, making sure that you're looking after your needs in the process. So definitely an opportunity to, you know, voice that and stay true to that as well. And, you know, it very well could be, you know, this new energy that I'm seeing around you. This could be, you know, this person from the past that has grown and transformed, and they are in a better space and they are ready for a healthy love. So let's get your person's hidden message for you. So the hidden message is more for those of you who are in a no contact situation. So Leo, I look for you everywhere. It was my fault, but I blamed you. I can't stop thinking about you. I wonder if you're happy without you. That's why I feel like this is someone coming back around from the past. I lost myself for a while. So Leo, I'm going to leave that there. We are going to move on to Sagittarius. So I just need to do a couple of shuffles here, Sagittarius. One more. Okay, Sagittarius, let's jump in. So I always like to tune into the energies first, Sagittarius. Before I start pulling any cards, I'm a psychic reader, so I always like to see what the universe shows me. So just let me feel into this. I see the word choice. I feel like there's some kind of choice that needs to be made here. And I feel like this is a choice around whether or not the person that you're currently connected to is still someone that you want to be in a connection with. It feels like things are breaking down to me. And I do feel like this is someone that you do have feelings with. It feels like there's a bit of history here. But there's also something that's feeling kind of unhealthy, one-sided, toxic in some way. I feel very avoidant energies. I feel like you're dealing with someone who really struggles here to, you know, have healthy conversations or open up emotionally. But at the same time, you know, it feels like there's also this really powerful bond with this person. Feels like a soulmate to me. And often wrapped up in these soulmate connections are sometimes some of our, you know, most powerful life lessons. And I feel like this is a choice around who belongs in your future. I think I got something similar for your monthly reading. So overall energies is the Queen of Wands. That's you reclaiming your power. I feel that very strongly. And, you know, I feel like I remember this from your monthly reading. There is a sense of almost losing yourself in this connection, you know, to the point where, you know, you're almost dimming your light. You're not being who you really are. You know, you're trying to make it work and, you know, trying to navigate this person and, you know, work on issues as they come up. And I feel like you're just dealing with someone who keeps shutting down all the time. And so issues aren't being resolved, but yet you feel this strong, you know, really strong connection to this person. Like, I feel like there's good times as well. And I do feel like this person has, you know, really, you know, brought something to the table here in the sense of there being a presence, like someone around, you know, it feels like, you know, family, partner somehow. But something, you know, I was getting in your monthly as well was you're not feeling like a priority here. I feel like this is someone who often prioritizes other things or other people over you and the connection. And I feel like there's been moments of letdowns and disappointments with this person where they may have kind of switched up at the last moment, changed plans, you know, when they're meant to meet you and done something else. Their view of you is the Eight of Wands. Their feelings towards you, the Hanged Man. Their intentions, the Seven of Wands. Your feelings towards your situation, Death. It's time for change, and it feels like you are at some kind of make or break point here. You may be in no contact. That's what I'm feeling here. You know, there may have been things which were expressed. Eight of Wands usually represents communication. This is a very fast moving energy. It's a very unhindered energy. And it's kind of like these conversations, this rapid back and forth messaging, you know, something like that. And it feels like, you know, some truths may have been spoken, especially with that Queen of Wands. You know, this is someone who really stands in their power. Very magnetic energy. This isn't someone who, you know, needs permission to kind of shine their light and be who they truly are. And it feels like something has occurred here where, you know, you have spoken some truths. You may even have taken a step back, because I do feel you're at a point where, you know, change is needed. You know, Death is a card of growth. It's an energy of a transition, and it often represents letting go of old versions of ourselves, limiting, you know, negative beliefs or patterns. And there may be a pattern here of attracting partners, I feel, that are perhaps emotionally unavailable in some way. Because with this person's intentions towards you, the Seven of Wands here, that's someone who's guarded. They've got their guard up. And with the Hanged Man, they're just kind of, you know, sometimes this is about, you know, seeing things from a different perspective. But in this case, I feel like this is the person that you're dealing with, you know, just kind of hanging there. They're not doing anything and they've got their guard up. And to me, it feels like it's time for change. And I do feel like you're at the point where, you know, it's sort of now or move on, really. Let's just look at the challenge. The challenge is the Two of Swords. And for me, that feels like you in this reading, Sagittarius. This is often an energy where, we might be holding two opposing beliefs to avoid, some kind of discomfort. It usually represents a choice that we might know we need to make, but we're avoiding making it. But we have death here, endings, beginnings, death, rebirth, a need for change. It's a transitional energy, and I feel very, very kind of stuck with this, because this is somebody, that you do have feelings for. This is someone that, you love, I feel. But there's a lot of things which are feeling unhealthy about this connection. And at some point there comes a cost. And, the cost is, I feel, your happiness, having your emotional needs met. Because, to be in a connection with someone, and, of course, people have, we're not necessarily always the only priority in someone's life. But it just feels like there's something unhealthy in that sense, where, we can make space for, family for someone. Maybe this is someone who's been married before and there's kids and things like that. But what I feel like you're dealing with here is somebody that perhaps doesn't have those kind of priorities, which, are very important, and you can make space for that. I feel like you're dealing with someone who is, very much sort of wanting things on their terms. And they're getting what they want out of this, but you're not. And it doesn't mean there hasn't been good times, and it doesn't mean that you're not getting anything out of it. I feel like you are. They're bringing some kind of sense of, stability and feeling like family. And I feel like that's what you've always wanted. And that's the thing. That's where there is a challenge here to, I feel, really kind of see the reality of this situation, because there is a kind of a hanging on to the what it could be still, the potential. And with the Two of Swords here, this is an invitation to, I feel, take off the blindfold and, see things as they really are. But most importantly, to actually listen to your heart, because your heart is wanting to be heard in this situation. And your heart always knows the truth, and your heart always knows, what is really, truly right for you. Because I do feel like there is a choice here around, how do you want the next chapter of your life to look? What do you really want in love? Because although it feels like there are some good moments with this person, I do feel like you have fun here and there. And you do have, your own kind of special bond here. At the same time, it feels very one-sided, and there feels like there's a lot of disappointment and letdowns. I get the sense of somebody kind of changing their mind about plans at the last minute and kind of letting you down, or suddenly deciding they're going to, go off and do something else, or they just don't show up when they say they're going to. And it just feels like this person is actually sabotaging things, because they're carrying wounds here which they haven't dealt with. And I do feel a very avoidant energy, and, an energy around it being unsafe to really open up to a deeper connection. And so they have these behaviors, I feel, which in one way are kind of really sabotaging things and leaving you, I feel, feeling kind of hurt, let down, and disappointed in this connection. In the hidden influence is the Seven of Cups. And the feeling I'm getting for this card, with this reading is that's the universe wanting to bring in options for you, new possibilities, potentials. It's also an energy where we can sometimes get caught up in illusions. You know, that's what the clouds represent around the cups here, illusions. And when you look at the cups, each one has, you know, something different in it. Each one has a potential, but some of those potentials in the what the cups are holding are not even real. And I do feel, you know, the hidden influence is something sometimes that is impacting things and we're not quite seeing it. And you are being asked, I feel, very much to, you know, take that blindfold off and really see things for how they truly are, you know, rather than, you know, hanging on to that potential and staying in something here which feels unhealthy to me. And at the same time, you know, this is also to remember that you do also have options. And it can be difficult to kind of take that in when you're very invested in someone and you still have feelings for that person. But we have more than one soulmate. You know, sometimes soulmates are really just about learning lessons and healing, you know, wounds and traumas from the past. And, you know, there are other connections out there for you. And I do feel it is a moment to really look at, you know, if this is how it's going to be forever, is this still something you feel you can accept? And with that said, you know, how do you want this next chapter of your life to really look like? Because you do deserve, you know, to have a healthy love, and you do deserve to be someone's priority. You deserve to be their first choice here. And you deserve to have time made for you. In your advice from the universe, the Four of Pentacles, which I feel very clearly, Sagittarius here, is a message around, you know, don't cling to the past. Don't cling to the past through fear. Fear of losing, you know, what you have invested in, what you have worked towards. And sometimes that's the thing, especially when there's history with someone, when you have, you know, memories together and you've worked so hard to kind of really, you know, make things work here. It can be hard to let go of that. But it really is to look at, you know, are you holding on to this because it's worth holding on to? Or is there a fear to let go because you may have to face, you know, perhaps some difficult emotions or patterns in yourself or things that might need healing? Because this is a card of, you know, letting go of control and not hanging on too tightly to, I feel, something that, you know, isn't fulfilling your needs here. It's not really making you happy. And just trust that there's more out there for you with that Seven of Cups. There's, you know, there's other options, there's potentials, there's connections and people that, you know, you haven't even met yet that will also become, you know, meaningful connections in your life. You know, every connection is very special and unique in its own way. It's not meant to replace another one. And that's the thing to remember. You know, you do deserve to have, you know, what you really want in love here. In your outcome, we have the High Priestess. Often an energy of sometimes, you know, holding back, keeping things hidden. But it's also an invitation for you, I feel, to, you know, start reclaiming your power a little bit. The High Priestess is she who knows. And, you know, this is all about trusting your intuition in this, listening to your heart, trusting your intuition, and, you know, really doing what's best for you moving forwards and what you really deserve. You know, the High Priestess is this energy of she who knows. And you're being asked to use that intuition, the wisdom of that intuition, to really guide your next steps forward now. So Sagittarius, let's just get your person's hidden message for you. So this is more for those of you who may be in some kind of no contact situation. My life is not as together as it seems. I definitely feel that energy from the person that you're with. I will wait for a sign from you. I know I was a distraction from your pain. You are the best thing in my life. I replay our conversations over and over. So Sagittarius, I'm going to leave that there. If this reading resonated, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. And as always, no matter what comes through in a reading, always trust what feels right for you moving forwards. So thanks so much for being here, and I wish you a great month ahead.